Yeah, hello. Let's continue our conversation on Seneca. The moral lessons. We had just done lesson 52, and lesson 53 is a fascinating one. I don't want to read you the whole letter. It's 2.5 pages, but just the opening I think is very interesting. From Seneca to Lucilius, greetings. What can I not be talked into? This time I was persuaded to take a trip by boat. It's wonderful because you can just picture this, right? Ancient Rome, there's a dude going on a little sailing boat or something. It's very interesting. The sea was calm when I set out. To be sure, the sky was heavy with mottled clouds, the kind that usually resolve themselves into rain or squalls. But I thought the mileage was so short from your town of Parthenope to Puteoli that I could get away with making the trip even in uncertain and threatening weather. So I tried to get done with it quickly by heading through the deep water directly towards the Isle of Nisus, intending a shortcut past all the inlets. The moment I got to where it made no difference whether I went on or turned back, the calm surface that had enticed me was no more. It was not yet a storm, but sloping seas with the waves ever more frequent. I began asking the helmsman to let me off somewhere on shore. He said, though, that the coastline was rugged and without anchorage, and that in a storm the land was the very thing he feared the most. But I was in too bad a way to have any use for danger. I had that persistent seasickness that brings on nausea but does not relieve it by vomiting. So I forced the issue with the helmsman and required him to head for shore whether he wanted to or not. As we drew near, I did not wait for any of the instructions in Virgil to be carried out, for them to turn the bow seaward or cast the anchor from the bow or bow. Now I'm confused. Forgive me, English is not my first language. Remembering my abilities, for I have been a swimmer, I threw myself into the sea as a cold water enthusiast would, wearing my mantle. Just imagine how I suffered as I staggered forward through the breakers, seeking a way, forcing a way. I understood then that sailors have reason to fear the land. It is unbelievable how much I endured just because I could not endure myself. Let me tell you, the reason Ulysses had shipwrecks everywhere was not so much that he was born to an angry sea. No, he was just prone to seasickness. I too will take 20 years to get wherever I'm going if I have to get there by ship. The letter continues, but for now, it made me think about drastic action, and it's a wonderful image I found of Seneca going on this ship. Let's assume that it really happened, because we're not even sure that Lucilius actually existed, right? So let's assume this happened. If not, it's a beautiful story. This dude goes out on the sea, starts off calm. When he's at the point of no return, as far forward as there is to turn around and go backward. As the storm, he gets nauseous, but he doesn't actually throw up, so he keeps this queasy feeling. And he wants to get to the land, but the helmsman says, "Yeah, I can't get close to the shore right now." And he makes him go anyway. He jumps overboard. He swims through what must have been reasonably tense waves, let's put it that way. And he makes it to the shore finally, where he is still queasy because he continues the letter by saying it took me a while to get through the seasickness, because as you know, just getting away from the sea is not enough to cure that, right? It takes a bit of time. And it made me think, and this might be a somewhat far-fetched comparison, but it made me think of radical action that sometimes you have to take. And this ties into a phenomenon that I've always found interesting in the Gori no Sho, which is a manual that Miyamoto Musashi, samurai and swordsman, great swordsman, very, very successful swordsman who founded his own school of swordsmanship, for the record. He wrote a manual on his style of fighting, but it's kind of like it's not. I mean, it's partially very pragmatic, but partially it's also his vision on strategy. And one thing that I've always found very interesting is he makes a point where he says at some point, and I don't have the book in front of me, but he makes a point where he says, when you reach a state of Totan-Totan, you have to step back and basically start the fight afresh. And what he's referring to is this. Totan-Totan does not have any meaning. It's an onomatopoeic expression that's just meant to resemble swords, clash, 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 clash. Not exactly, that would destroy the edge, but I mean, I'm just keeping things simple here. That state where you strike and the opponent parries, and the opponent strikes and you parry, and you strike and the opponent parries, and you can't get out of that. That's what he referred to by Totan-Totan. I've always found that a nice expression. And his solution for it sounds simple, but is actually very hard. It is, you must take a step back, reset, and start the fight over, because you've reached a stalemate and you cannot win when you are on a stalemate. Profound remarks. Difficult to implement, but profound remarks. And I had to think of that in the first or second, but I think it was first year of my master's degree. I had to take a course on coding in R, and it was the first time that I had ever been exposed to coding. And we had to do a lot of assignments, and there was one script I had to code, and I was working on it on the weekend, and I simply couldn't get it to work. There was a bug, there was an error somewhere, and I could not find it. I went over it again and again and again, basically spent an entire Saturday or Sunday, whatever it was, on that thing. And I got so incredibly frustrated because I went over every line of code, every bracket, every semicolon, everything, and I just could not find the error. And I forced myself to take a break because there was also a deadline that was due the Monday after that. So it's not that I had unlimited time. I forced myself to take a break. I came back to it. And I thought, you know what, this is not working. I can't find the error. Again, picture this. I had spent hours on the same script. It wasn't even a long, like this much code, maybe, again and again, going over it, hour after hour. So I deleted the whole thing. I deleted the whole code. I started over, hit run, and it worked straight away. So I still don't know what the error was that I made, but I made an error somehow, somewhere, and it must have been something that was so obvious that it didn't register in my brain. And I realized afterwards that was Totan-Totan. I was stuck in a stalemate. I could not get out of that situation because every time I struck, the opponent parried. Every time the opponent struck, I parried. There was no way out of this except for taking a deep breath, resetting my brain, starting all over. And then the whole thing, I think, was said and done in 20 minutes, which in a way made it even more frustrating. But from the bigger viewpoint, right, the greater perspective, that was it. That was it. And this Seneca's story of him jumping over the bow of the ship, it is bow, isn't it? Jumping over, swimming to the shore, that to me, it reminded me of that situation. You can get stuck. Totan-Totan. You don't know what to do or how to get out. Then there is only one option, and that is to mentally reset. Start over. Hard to do, but sometimes you must force something like that on yourself to be able to get through a situation. Look at it completely afresh. And that might be more sort of applicable to life examples, but my coding example is what I had in mind. The one thing that truly came to mind for me where I just had that complete hard reset. And I found it to be helpful the better you are able to take a step back, an actual step back, take a deep breath and look at the problem afresh, the better you're able to solve certain problems. And I think that is a vital skill that we need to incorporate into our lives more, because we get stuck all the time in our thoughts, in our feelings. And this is very Stoic, right? The idea of specific thoughts keep intruding, they keep making me feel bad. And at that point, being able to take a step back, being able to take a deep breath and say, wait a minute, this ends here. I'm going to look at this from a radically different viewpoint, I think can make a massive difference. And I've certainly done that, where I had negative thoughts that kept kind of intruding. I said, no more. This ends. Now, I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm not talking about those things. That requires therapy and maybe medication, like professional intervention. I'm talking about everyday things that everyone experiences once in a while. That hard reset can make a massive difference. So, I hope this example was useful, that it makes sense to you, that it's something that you can maybe apply. Let me know what you think, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time for more talk about Stoicism. Bye!